I've been wondering when this was going to happen. I knew at some point, somewhere, has landed herself a new, very high profile position with some miscellaneous media outlet. Caitlin Clark would get a gig. There's no CBA right now. This, of course, would run through at least May. And now we know where that gig's going to be, when that gig's going to be.
Caitlin Clark is currently the premier star of her league, yet there is a distinct possibility the league itself may not exist by next summer. This is the reality Clark addressed recently through a significant new contract. While public debate centers on whether the WNBA will operate in 2026, Clark has secured a position that functions as a financial safeguard worth more than her current professional salary. Even in a scenario where the WNBA ceased operations, Clark's individual brand and earning potential now exist independently of the league's salary cap. The timing of this move coincides with reports of a potential WNBA shutdown. The players' union is preparing for a collective bargaining agreement battle centered on demands for private air travel, increased compensation, and a larger share of league revenue resources players have been told are unavailable. As the union considers a strike for the 2026 season to achieve these goals, Clark has signed a deal that renders that uncertainty irrelevant to her personal finances. She is joining NBC Sports as a lead analyst for the new program Basketball Night in America. This is not a peripheral role or a series of guest appearances. NBC is placing Clark on its flagship basketball broadcast, utilizing the Sunday night slot that has long established the NFL's television dominance. On February 1st, prior to the start of her next professional season, Clark will provide analysis on LeBron James and the Lakers at Madison Square Garden. The network is positioning her as a basketball mind on the same level as Hall of Famers Carmelo Anthony and Tracy McGrady. This development creates significant pressure for WNBA owners. The current CBA expires in October 2025. Without a new agreement, the season will be canceled. For the vast majority of the roster, this would result in a total loss of income and a reliance on overseas opportunities. Clark's contract with NBC runs through May 2026, effectively insuring her against the failure of her own league. If the WNBA enters a lockout or shuts down, she remains a weekly fixture on national television covering the NBA, maintaining her visibility, income, and leverage. This move also shifts the traditional media hierarchy. Rather than joining ESPN, the long-standing home of the WNBA, Clark has partnered with NBC. Having recently reacquired NBA rights, NBC is building its basketball identity around her. By choosing the emerging platform over the established incumbent, Clark becomes the foundation of a new broadcasting era, rather than one figure among many at a larger network. This financial separation has reportedly caused friction within the league. Rumors suggest tension between Clark and other players involves the underlying economics of the sport, as much as her on-court performance. Some observers view this as a departure from the union's collective goals, suggesting her influence should be used to pressure owners rather than to build a private media interest. The WNBA is currently navigating an identity crisis. One faction prefers the league remain a dedicated niche product, while another seeks to transform it into a global entity. Owners may argue that recent revenue growth is tied primarily to a single player. The Indiana Fever's transition from a low-visibility team to one requiring flex scheduling and larger arenas supports the argument that the current pay scale is outdated. Clark's debut on February 1st will be a significant indicator of her long-term impact. The sports industry will be watching her performance at the NBC desk. Critics may be quick to dismiss her as a promotional hire if her analysis lacks depth. However, if she translates the vision she displays on the court to the broadcast booth, she could fundamentally change the perception of her value, proving her intellectual contribution to the game is as significant as her commercial appeal. As the WNBA approaches a potential work stoppage in 2026, the power dynamic has shifted. The league previously controlled the only available platform for these athletes. Now Clark has established her own stage and audience independent of the league's operational status. It is a calculated move that challenges the established order but may ultimately force the WNBA to accelerate its professional and financial evolution. Clark is bypassing traditional milestones and securing her position as a mogul without waiting for the results of a labor dispute. Whether on the court or in the studio, she is no longer following the established rules of the industry, she is defining them. The economic implications of this shift are already visible in the league's financial records. In 2025, the Caitlin Clark effect was responsible for a significant portion of the WNBA's total revenue growth. with some analysts attributing over 25% of all league-generated income to her presence. This includes a 500% surge in merchandise sales and a 264% increase in ticket revenue. While the Indiana Fever franchise has seen its estimated value quadruple, the benefit has extended to other teams, which reported 140% increases in ticket prices for games involving Clark. However, this growth has created a paradox. The league is more profitable than ever, yet it has never been closer to a total work stoppage. Negotiations for the new collective bargaining agreement have reached a stalemate. The core of the dispute is revenue sharing. The players' union is advocating for a system based on 30% of gross revenue, a model that would accurately reflect the value generated by increased media rights and attendance. The league, conversely, has proposed a share tied to net revenue calculated after expenses, which the union estimates would result in players receiving only 15% of total income. This 15% gap represents hundreds of millions of dollars over the life of the proposed 6-year deal. The tension has moved beyond the boardroom and into the daily operations of the franchises. In early 2026, the WNBA released its full season schedule, set to begin on May 8. However, because the CBA has not been finalized, all Major League business remains frozen. Free agency is currently on hold, and the expansion drafts for the new Portland Fire and Toronto Tempo franchises have been delayed indefinitely. These teams exist on paper and on the schedule, but they do not yet have rosters. Without a deal by mid-February, the window to complete these administrative requirements before training camps open in March will likely close, making a delay or cancellation of the 2026 season a mathematical probability. For the veteran players, the Pay Us What You Owe Us campaign, first seen during the 2025 All-Star Game, has become the central directive. Their argument is that the current salary structure, which saw an average salary of approximately $102,000 in 2025, is no longer compatible with a league that recently signed a $2.2 billion media rights package. The union is pushing for a salary cap exceeding $10 million per team, a sharp increase from the previous limits. The league's counteroffer, reported to be closer to $5 million, is viewed by player leadership as a refusal to acknowledge the new financial reality. In this environment, Clark's NBC deal acts as a hedge against the collective risk. The concept of content insurance is becoming a blueprint for how top-tier athletes navigate labor volatility. By securing a lead analyst role that pays a premium regardless of whether WNBA games are played, Clark has insulated herself from the financial consequences of a strike. This creates a unique challenge for the WNBA. Typically, a strike's success depends on the economic pressure placed on all members. When the league's most influential player is financially independent of that pressure, the union's leverage is potentially diluted. This internal friction is amplified by the disparity in endorsement earnings. While most players rely on their WNBA salary and modest local sponsorships, Clark's endorsement portfolio already exceeds $3 million annually. This financial independence allows her to operate as an individual entity within a collective system. Critics within the sport have suggested that this individualist approach undermines the labor movement, arguing that a star of her magnitude should be more publicly aligned with the union's strike authorization, which was approved by 98% of the players in December. The shift in power is also visible in the collegiate landscape Clark left behind. At the University of Iowa, ticket revenue dropped by 57% in the first year following her departure, falling from $3.2 million to $2.3 million. Matchday income and royalties saw similar declines. This post-Clark reality serves as a warning to the WNBA. If the league enters a prolonged lockout or strike, they risk alienating the massive audience that followed Clark from college to the pros. The league is currently at its peak cultural relevance. A work stoppage would not only halt revenue, but could permanently damage the brand during its most critical growth phase. As the February crunch time deadline approaches, the owners and players remain at an impasse regarding the definition of professional standards. Beyond salary, the players are demanding expanded family planning support, consistent practice facility requirements, and a permanent transition to charter travel for all teams. While the league has conceded on some salary increases, proposing a maximum salary of $1.3 million by 2026, they remain firm on their revenue-sharing model, citing projected losses of $700 million if they were to accept the union's 30% gross revenue demand. The arrival of the next generation of stars, including Paige Bueckers and Angel Reese, ensures that the talent pipeline remains strong, but talent alone cannot resolve a structural labor crisis. The WNBA is currently operating under status quo rules, meaning it functions day-to-day under the expired agreement. This period is a temporary pause that allows either side to initiate a work stoppage at any time. If the owners decide to act, a lockout would immediately bar players from team facilities and terminate their pay. For Caitlin Clark, the February 1st debut at Madison Square Garden represents the beginning of a dual-track career. As she analyzes the Lakers and Knicks for a national audience, she will be demonstrating a professional versatility that her peers currently lack. She is proving that her value is portable. If the WNBA season is delayed, her face will still be the centerpiece of NBC's basketball coverage. She has successfully decoupled her career from the fate of a single organization. The outcome of the next few weeks will determine if the WNBA can successfully transition from a subsidized venture into a self-sustaining major sports league. The expansion into Toronto and Portland signals a belief in the league's commercial viability. But that viability depends on a stable labor force. Clark's decision to build her own media infrastructure is a response to the inherent instability of the current system. She is not merely a player in the WNBA, she is a stakeholder in the broader basketball economy. The sports world is watching to see if the league's old guard will adapt to this new era of athlete-driven power. The traditional model of the WNBA required players to be grateful for the opportunity to play professionally. That model has been replaced by an era where players understand their market value and are willing to risk the season to secure it. Clark's NBC contract is the first major piece of evidence that the players are no longer waiting for the league to catch up. They are moving forward, with or without a signed agreement. As the May 8 tip-off date nears, the silence from the negotiating table becomes more significant. The league is betting that the players will eventually compromise to avoid a year without pay. The players are betting that the league cannot afford to lose the momentum generated over the last 2 seasons. In the middle of this high-stakes gamble stands Caitlin Clark, the only participant who has already won. Whether she is on the court in an Indiana Fever jersey or behind a desk at NBC, her position is secure. The WNBA, however, is still fighting for its future.